In this particular piece, I used pencil on loose fabric. It was quite challenging to do, and I wanted to get the point across that there's always been this great attention paid to who Jack the Ripper was and why he did what he did, but I wanted to bring the focus back around solidly on the women that he murdered and that their lives did matter. It's a conceptual art piece, an abstract art piece, but I was exaggerating the female form. And this form, this very curvaceous form, is an art form that has been used to represent the female through time immemorial. And in the piece over in the corner here, there's a little ode, reference to the goddess figure who's in this little sort of alcove here. It's a very sort of voluptuous figure. Some of the earliest artwork that's ever been found that depicts a female form is in this very curvaceous form. So I wanted to bring that aspect into the piece as well.
Is about the symbolism of infection and the idea that the plague pits are still active, and that even today when they discover a plague pit, the workers that go down there have to wear protective gear because there is still the risk of infection, which is quite scary really. So what I've tried to do with this is create a sense of unease out of everyday objects. This base element is a coffee table, although some people have also said it looks like a 1980s games machine that you get in pubs, which is I quite like that. It wasn't something I thought about when I was making it. But the whole idea of the cross, and in fact the two chairs are quite symbolic as well. One represents science and the other religion, because they're the two things that we think can solve everything. I mean, when there was the plague, everyone looked to religion to actually solve it. Nowadays we look to science, and perhaps neither of them can actually provide an answer for things that are beyond our control. So the whole idea of the cross, if you sit on one side of it, it's inverted, and the other side of it, it's a sort of Christian cross. So it has two different plays on it.
It took me 222 hours to make, and it was approximately 400 metres of thread. It was after the July 7th bombings when everything was completely in disarray, and I decided, even though several years later that I made it, I was kind of jotting down notes of how I felt at the time and how I kind of wanted to sew London back together, and it became the motto of knitting lives back together since 1986, and that's kind of the year I was born. And it's the kind of practice of sewing stuff together with giant needles, how you can fix bigger problems with smaller things. So yeah, whilst the tube was being rebuilt, this was being made as well.
We show in our art piece called Animalcules, A Drop of Water, which is an interactive video installation, which is torch driven. So when it's dark in here and people come in with a torch and shine it on the work, it brings these creatures up from a sort of the depths, and then it follows where the light is and gets bigger, and then if you take the torch away, they'll fade back away. So it's a very, very simple interactive piece. The show, this Illumini show, everyone had to kind of connect it to something in the London Underground. So our connection was to the sewer system in London, and these were in 1858. There was an event called the Great Stink, where all the sewage water in London went straight into the Thames, and then the Thames was also the drinking water. So people were dying of cholera and stuff like that. And so that's when the Parliament put a vote in, and they had to build a sewage system in London. So at that time, in the Victorian time, the scientists were doing diagrams of all the bacteria and microbes in the water. So there's some images of those, drawings and that, and we took the shapes of those and used and added our own stuff into it as well. So that's one inspiration for it.
Relax yourself and help yourself to air. 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 Relax yourself.